Welcome to Carl and Heather Present,
the podcast where we dive into the insights, challenges, and humor of being married to someone who is nothing like you.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Oh, don't you know it's Carl and Heather Present Marriage Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the big time hit podcast, Carl and Heather Present. I am excited to announce that our team of scientists and researchers at the Carl and Heather Present Institute have just let me know that Carl and Heather Present has now surpassed Joe Rogan Podcast and This American Life as the most listened to podcast in America. Congratulations, babe.
Wow.
And to celebrate, we are going to send one lucky married couple on a trip around the world and give them $50,000 spending money. Isn't that exciting?
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. April Fools.
Ah, you got me.
I did. Actually, you got me.
I wrote that down.
April Fools. Wouldn't that be nice, though?
One day we'll
We're
do it.
speaking things aren't as though they were.
It's prophetic. I think Joe Rogan just got a chill up his spine.
He probably did.
He's like, Could it
happen?
Are they?
Wait. Could something that's only 30 minutes surpass something that's 5 hours?
I don't know.
I
think maybe we're a different demographic.
Maybe. I don't even know if people listening
I
know
like Joe
podcast.
Rogan podcast.
Yeah, that's 50% of us.
That's okay.
Okay. Anyway,
How you doing?
I'm good.
Check in, baby girl.
Yeah, I'm checking in. We just finished March. April 1st, spring has sprung here in Middle Tennessee, and I love it. I'm a huge fan. And we just finished up a social media fast with our church. And I have to be honest, at first I thought that it was going to be, I don't want to say hard because I feel like that's an over-exaggeration. That's like me stubbing my toe and saying it was traumatic, kind of thing.
Right.
It was not hard. It was a little more, I don't know. It brought up some things to the surface. I'll just say that. It was interesting.
That's good.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing our first Nashville Likewise Worship
Yep.
Leader Gathering
We'll be there.
April 3rd, just in a couple days. So I'm really excited about that.
Me too. It's gonna be great.
I've been doing music ministry and worship leadership and songwriting for 30 years. And I can't believe that I still get to do it. And
Yeah.
I love the work of it, and I love the people who do the work at it. And so if you want to know more about that part of our ministry, it's likewiseworship.com.
30 years?
Yeah.
You've been doing, you're hot. You look
Dude, I just got a haircut today.
just as good. Your hair looks good. I was just thinking to myself, you're in my sweet spot of like, I don't want to say that I enjoyed men that were 30 years older than me 30 years
Right.
ago, but I kind of have a thing for
You're into that gray hair
that
dad
salt
bod.
and pepper. That salt and pepper thing. And
You're welcome.
you are hitting my sweet spot, dude. Okay.
Well,
Sorry,
all right.
back to the, let's focus.
I'm all about
Sorry.
it. I'm not going to try and deter you from complimenting.
Likewise
me.
worship. Okay, what else?
Well, we're out here doing this podcast.
Yeah.
We love to hear from people. Rate, review, like, subscribe. Please do that.
Yeah.
Also, more important than that stuff, more important than you writing a review or making a comment on anything is Heather and I want to pray for you. If you're out there listening, every marriage is hard. Every marriage has hard places. There's things you got to work on.
Yeah.
Don't do it by yourself. How can we pray for you? Let us know by emailing us hi, H-I, at carlandheather.com. Totally discreet, totally anonymous. We're not going to talk about your business on the podcast,
No.
but we are going to talk to God on your behalf and with you about what you're struggling with. So please let us pray for you.
Yeah.
Now, this week we are talking about our social media fast that we just did.
Yeah.
And not just a social media fast, but we went on a fast for the month of March for all media stuff.
Right.
Now, we did make a few posts because we're still releasing episodes of
Right.
the podcast. but we were not scrolling on our phones. We were not interacting really on social media. We were definitely not watching TV because I felt that deeply in my soul because there's something in March called March Madness, and it's college basketball. I love it so much. I did break it one time to watch my beloved Tar Heels play basketball, but I hated it because I like to watch all the basketball games.
All the games.
In March Madness.
Would you say, I know you're a big Christmas fan, but would you say that it's your second most wonderful time of the year? Like
for
Christmas
sure.
and then March Madness. We
Especially-
love the whole family.
Yeah, everybody's into it. We do a bracket, especially if the Heels are doing good.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about that, but yeah, so, okay. Well, we did this with our church, but really we want to talk today about media and your marriage in general, okay? And that's kind of the idea of like, how does media affect our marriage? Our fast that we did was divided into 4 different weeks because there were kind of 4 different phases you go through as you start a media fast. And we did this upon the recommendation of our pastor who's written a book. And his book is called The Digital Fast, and he has an accompanying workbook. And so there was a donor from our church who graciously offered to buy everybody in the church, and it's a large church, a copy of the workbook.
It was me.
Where are you hiding that money? But it was cool because our boys got the workbooks. We each got our own copy of the workbook. And so we've been doing, or we did the lessons every day in the morning together. And so that was pretty cool. We did each day's exercise. And so the 4 weeks were detach, discover, delight, and determine. So they were broken up into those segments. We started out with this verse that was kind of the linchpin of the whole time, and it was Psalm 119:37. And it says, "Turn my eyes from looking at worthless things and give me life in your ways." And you even wrote a song for us, which was cool.
I did
for our
write a
family,
song,
so we could memorize that verse. So that was cool. But it was just this idea when you put that on our phones, so that when our phones would come up, we grayscaled our phones and did some things to help us with that. But just so that we could begin to think about what we were doing when we actually looked at our phones. And so the first week was detachment. And I would say it was just hard in the sense that I didn't realize how much I looked at my phone.
It's so much.
Yeah, so much.
Like borderline constant. And I caught myself like very impulsively reaching for my phone for no reason, especially in that first week.
Yeah.
And then just having to catch myself, it's like, no, you need to put this down. Because I wasn't doing anything but trying to fill in the tiny little gaps between activities.
Yep. Really, there was no space. And so this idea of like, how does your phone make you feel? What would you say? Like, how does your phone, in answering that question, like based on your response that first week, how does your phone make you feel?
Well, I was using my phone to hold like silence at bay. I was using my phone, like I said, to fill in the gaps between activities, like as if I was afraid of something being quiet, or if I was afraid of something slowing down. And I think I can be that way, but I didn't realize how much that way I was until I started taking stock of like, how much time do I spend being quiet?
Right.
How much time in my day do I have nothing coming in or feeding my brain, And so I realized I was very, very detached to it. Like what the apps, now it's funny, I look at our cell phone bill. And so, and each different number has different amounts of data used.
Right.
You use so much more data than I do.
Yes, because I'm in the car.
You're in the car a lot.
More.
And it's also like, I don't think I've ever like looked at your phone for more than a minute or two and not, a barrage of texts. Like you're constantly getting texts and texting with people and like, I don't know who they are. I don't know who these people are, but your phone is a busy phone. But like, did you find that you got more work done? Like, were you texting less? Or were you like just looking at apps and stuff like that less?
Yeah, so I definitely looked at apps list. One of the things that I noticed, I think that was interesting, is that one day I had to take the boys to the DMV to get their permits.
Gosh.
And it was just, it's a sad place anyway. It was just sad, but I didn't have anything to do while we were waiting. And it ended up being a 3.5 hour trip. Like it took us 3.5
Sounds like
hours to do.
Doge needs to go to the DMV.
Okay. That's another episode. But anyway, I noticed people around me. Like I people watched for 3 hours because I didn't have anything else to do.
Were they looking at their phones?
Nobody looked at me. Yeah, everybody else was looking at their phone. But I noticed people that were frustrated. I noticed people that seemed more at peace. They were just okay with waiting.
Yeah.
It was just an interesting way to observe. But I think for me, I use it to fill the space, but also it makes me feel not alone.
Yeah.
To answer that question, like how does my phone make me feel?
Yeah.
It makes me feel connected,
Yeah.
even though I'm really not.
Absolutely. So we spent that first week detaching and talking about why do we need to detach from our phone?
Yeah.
I would encourage anybody listening to ask yourself, maybe you don't need to. Some people have the gift of not being bothered by it.
Or maybe media in general. So maybe you have to have the TV on in the background.
It's like,
all
I'll
the time.
never look at my phone, but then like Fox News is on stun volume 24/7. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that necessary? So first week was detach. We did that.
Second week was discover. Discover what else is out there or what's always been out there when you stop looking at your phone.
Yeah.
I would say that my phone, it truly is. It makes me more productive. I can do stuff
Absolutely.
with my phone.
Yes.
And be anywhere and send people things and attach files and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I think it makes me feel more productive when really like I am rarely being productive if I'm on social media or looking at memes. Like I have a lot of favorite accounts that you and I love, the account Middle Class Fancy.
Right.
We look at that a lot.
funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's about our lives
Yeah,
mostly. I have daily dad jokes. I also look at that. I look at Chuck Norris facts.
You look at style. There's a style guy you follow, I think, on social media.
Ask Okie.
Ask
Dude,
Okie. Anyway, we won't get off on that.
I look at him a lot.
Yeah.
He's cool though. I aspire to be like him. But so I think I would make the apologetic that my phone makes me feel more productive. But I also have discovered, in this time that when I'm not looking at those things that sort of like absorb my time, I discovered that I've been more creative. Like I've written more songs. I've learned to play some songs on the guitar.
Yeah.
I draw a lot.
You do?
Every day.
I love that.
No, not everybody knows that about me, but I love to draw. And so I'm just drawing more pictures, which is, I don't know if anybody will ever see them, but maybe you and the boys will have them, one day.
Yeah.
And it's like
It's a
it's
creative
a part of-
expression.
it's a creative expression that it's not impotent. Like scrolling on my phone is impotent. It doesn't produce any fruit.
Right. You don't produce anything.
Yeah,
You consume.
Yeah, right. I consume, but like I don't contribute to it. I just consume it. But when I'm done with it, I have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
So,
And there was also this idea of like, what other appetites do you see coming to the surface when you don't have your phone to numb you? Because sometimes the phone is numbing. And I notice, like, I don't know if my female friends out there can relate to this, but like I notice like, okay, I have more sugar cravings. I think more about food when phone's not there to numb something. And so what is my phone numbing for me? I think more about in that discovery week, I thought more about those things. So it's just
what
interesting.
about like, did you discover any idols that you have in your life?
Yeah, I think going back to that first week of detachment, I realized that there was this idol of connection, and I don't want to say FOMO, but just this idol of being like part of something or feeling, and maybe it was the idol of self, feeling validated. Did somebody comment on this post that I made? How many likes did I get? And I
Yeah.
know that's not just me, that's everybody. But did anybody think that was funny? Did anybody do this? Like looking for that affirmation
Yeah.
outside of just like what the Lord gives me and just the people who are really in my life,
Right.
bring to the table. So yeah, I think so.
I even think of it in terms of like things that are idols get our mind's attention and our heart's affection.
Yeah.
Like you can make an idol out of anything.
Yeah.
But like the object of my phone, I was projecting onto it like something that it really couldn't give me, but I was hoping that I could get something from it that I could only get from God.
Yeah.
But I was giving it my mind's attention and my heart's affection. Like I'm bought into what's happening on there. And of course, the attention of my mind, my time,
Yeah.
I gave it. And I was like, wait a minute, that's a classic version of idolatry. Just trying to project or trying to get something from an object, an inanimate object
Yeah.
that you can only get from God.
Yeah.
I was like, I got some idols in my life.
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep. So we detached, we discovered, and then we delighted. And it was my favorite week because it really encouraged us to be fully present, like be where you are. And I loved that because oftentimes I am by nature a doer, and I love efficiency. So if I can get two things done at once, and I've read studies that, multitasking is never very efficient. But if I could watch TV while folding the clothes, so it made me do one thing at a time. So like if I would work a puzzle, which is something I like to do and I don't do very often, so I would work a puzzle, but I would not. I know you're smiling because you're like nerd puzzle. I love
It's
puzzles.
okay. A lot of people love puzzles. Puzzles are popular.
And so I could just work the puzzle and that was it. Or if we played a ton of games with the boys.
Yeah.
And if we were playing games, we noticed, I was on a drive with one of the boys because we were in the car lot and we looked at this tree and we both were just sitting in the car in silence, looking at the tree and noticing how bright the colors were. I don't think we would have done that. I think,
Very homeschool of you.
but it's just something that we noticed. And then we also notice like things that refresh us outside of our phones. So I learned some things about myself. Like did you learn anything about refreshing things for you?
You said this week was your favorite. I experienced the exact opposite.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't delight in enough things or like I don't pay attention to enough like how I'm refreshed or anything like that. But we were working through that booklet and it was like, what are things you delight in?
Yeah.
And some of my stuff was like having a job. You know what I'm saying? My truck. I found it hard to come up with things that seemed appropriate for the word delight.
Okay.
Like almost light and free and just like it's pure unadulterated joy. Maybe that's disconnected from some sort of effort on my part.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or just like the family, you and the boys, things like that. I could come up with those kind of things, but
yeah.
But really getting into it and getting
Yeah.
into the depth of what I feel, really, I had a hard time with that. Like, I didn't know what refreshed me.
Do you think that is because this is like I'm gonna divide the sexes here, but do you think that men sometimes in general have a little bit more difficulty identifying how they're feeling, or
Maybe it's the
is it not
word.
that?
I can't,
Yeah.
I don't have one friend that if I went
Would
and
say
asked
delight.
them, excuse me, David, what are you delighting in today? I don't think that they would
It's the word. The
take
word feels
very
more
long
feminine.
to punch me in the mouth.
We did have a family dinner once, and you said, we had a family dinner lots. We had lots of family dinners, but you said because some of our boys work in the evenings, you said at the dinner, I'm so happy that we're all around this table at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you might not say delight, but I
Maybe-
would see that as something
Maybe
you
that was
delighted
a
in.
delight.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but we also made this list with like sticky notes of things that we're thankful for, which that's something we've done for a long time.
Yeah. I don't have a hard time coming up with things I'm thankful
Right.
for. And maybe that's the same thing.
Yeah, we did kind of a thank you list, and then they called it a thank you list and a please list. But just like, what are we asking God for?
Yeah.
And it was interesting because some of our kids were like, more Legos, a basketball jersey, you know. And he was like, does it have to be spiritual? And I'm like, well, not necessarily, you know. And so sometimes we do want physical things. That's okay. But, you know, things like more peace or the ability to be wherever you are and be fully present, or, you know,
Yeah.
rest.
I think
that
that
kind of
is
thing.
like contentment. Like sometimes I'm not
Mm-hmm.
fully present because I'm not content with my present.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right,
so
right, right.
I'm projecting things into the future and trying to rig things up to try and, you know, maybe imagine a future where it will be better there than it is right now.
Right.
You know, so it's so hard
Yeah.
for me to be like,
Right.
this here in this moment
Yeah.
is all I need.
Yeah.
Man, and my phone robs me of that.
Sure. I feel the same way. Well, and then last thing we did that week is we talked about solitude versus loneliness. And you and I talked about this of like, we've never really thought about the difference.
Yeah.
Like when you hear the
Yeah.
word solitude and loneliness, and Darren Whitehead, who's the pastor of our church who wrote this book, he said something that we thought was very insightful. And he said, solitude is a spiritual discipline that has been practiced by believers for centuries. Loneliness is a result of the fall.
Yeah.
And so you can be lonely within solitude, but that's because of the fall. Solitude itself is a good thing. And we don't have to be lonely. Henry Nouwen has this quote. He says, without solitude, it is virtually impossible to live a spiritual life. Without solitude, it's virtually impossible to live a spiritual life. We do not take the spiritual life seriously if we do not set aside some time to be with God and to listen to Him. And I think we live in a culture where everything's filling our time, and we're filling our time and space with noise. Now, it might be, I'm not talking about literal noise.
Yeah.
I'm talking about as soon as I wake up, I need something to entice me. I need something to draw me in, whether it's my phone, whether it's a TV screen, whether it's a cigarette. I don't smoke, but you know what I'm saying? It's something. I don't know why it's a cigarette. That sounds super random. People are like, I didn't know she smoked. You know, whether it's some kind of something that has a hold on me.
Yeah.
And it has to be something that fills this space to where solitude feels uncomfortable.
Sure.
They had us practice moments of solitude, or even like extended times of solitude. And I remember I woke up one morning before anybody was up, which is unusual for me because I'm not a morning person, but I knew that was the only time I could get quiet. Mm-hmm. And I had an hour set aside, and it was really hard. There was no like, I'm not listening to music. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to be quiet. I had my Bible open, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it was uncomfortable, but it was a good practice for me, you know, to do. So,
Well, that leads us to the kind of the last thing of this fast that we worked on. It's, you know, like we detach, we discover, we, you know, what's the third thing?
we detach, we discover, we delight.
We detach, we discover, we delight, and learning all of those practices. So at the end of this fast, we needed to determine some things.
Yeah.
Like, and it's really like, what are we going to do now that we've learned this?
Yeah.
Or now that we've experienced this?
Right.
God have mercy that we learned something.
Well, it's like you can't unsee it. We've seen it.
yeah.
And so now we can't say, oh, well, I didn't know
Right.
it had such a hold on me. We
Right.
know.
Yeah.
You know?
So we needed to determine, you know, what are we going to do with our relationship to these phones and to media and to technology?
Yeah.
What's our relationship to these things moving forward? Because I didn't open up the box on my phone and say, I'm going to wholly give myself to this thing. I'm going to give every waking moment to this phone. I didn't do that. I realized that it was getting way more of my time and attention
Right.
than it deserved. And so now I have a choice to make.
Right.
What are you going to do, Heather?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for me, I've heard this before, but, motivation will get you going, but habit is what keeps the car running,
Yeah.
And so motivation gets you started, habit keeps it going. And so there have to be some habits of like one of the things we, started was grayscale. It was huge for me, like keeping my phone not on color.
That's when you have your phone on grayscale. What does that mean?
Everything's black and white.
You can set it to do that?
You can set it in the settings on grayscale. And I felt like the Wizard of Oz, the first part of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting because I needed to take a picture and see if something came in a certain way. So when I turned it back on to see about the picture, it was as though the colors were like blinding to me. They were so bright. I'm like, whoa, these colors are so intense.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it normally. So little things like that, or setting limits for my phone. Like I don't have my phone's like at 8:00 at night. I'm done with my phone. I go and set it in the other side of my room, or I get a different alarm. Little things like that, like habits that we establish. But then also there can be like rhythms of like doing this fast over and over again, right?
Yeah. Well, we learned this rhythm of having a media fast or any kind of fast like this. A rhythm of 1 day a week, 1 week a month, and 1 month a year. I thought that was really cool rhythm that you could build your whole year
Yeah.
around. 1 day a week, I orient myself towards practicing something that I know is going to connect me more deeply to God. Maybe it's solitude. And then 1 week a month, and then 1 month a year.
Yeah.
That might seem like a whole lot. I think it would be so powerful, though, in our life to establish some kind of rhythm like that. It's like we talk about calendaring our connection, Tom.
Yeah.
At the marriage conferences, and like, no wonder marriages suffer and struggle with connection because we just hope that it happens,
Yeah.
and we kind of like believe that it's going to happen organically. It almost never does, but we encourage people to say, look, connect with your spouse at least an hour a week, have some kind of sit down time, or make it 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just busy as you can be. If you want to work on your marriage, find 30 minutes a week. Find one date time. It can be at night. It could be during the day, 1 date a month, and then 1 weekend getaway a year, just the two of you. Calendaring those kind of things, just like with your social media, with your fasting, rhythms help to tune us
Yeah.
and bring us into alignment. See,
Right.
like I talked a little bit about music and loving music, and you know this a whole lot. I love guitars.
Yep.
And you told me one time, I said, how much is too much to spend on another guitar? And you said $1.
$1.
And you said real mean like
As
that.
I look around our home and can look at,
You said it.
I don't know how many
You were
guitars
real.
I can see.
That was mean when the way
lot
you
of
said
guitars.
$1 like that.
Lots of guitars.
But anyway,
Anyway.
I love guitars, and a guitar is a totally new creation. No one confuses a guitar with a tree. It looks just like guitar, but it's made out of wood, and it still has present within it its former nature. And you and I are new creations in Christ, but we're still flesh. He didn't like create us into something other than flesh. He remade us on the inside. But just like a guitar, the former nature of the instrument, it's been remade into something brand new. The former nature is still there. And if we're not careful, that old nature tends to draw the guitar out of tune. And something that has been remade to be a beautiful expression, if it gets pulled out of tune, it's dissonant and it's not pleasing anymore. And so our flesh does the same thing to us. We've been remade in Christ, but the world, the influence of the evil one in our flesh, the stuff that we're still made out of,
Yep.
tends to pull on us and shape us and pull us out of tune. And being part of a fasting rhythm,
Yeah.
having some boundaries for how you engage with the things of this world, having some limits, having some practices that help you, is so helpful to transform us and to create space for us to be closer together. I tell you, almost every time I'm looking at my phone, I'm not getting closer to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I would say vice versa. That's been one of the things about doing it this fast this month.
Yeah.
Is just because we're not looking at one thing, we're looking at each other.
Yeah.
And it's made a difference.
Yeah.
You are very pretty.
Thank you. I think you're handsome. I feel like we're full circle there.
Yeah.
I started out.
I did that. I called it
You
back.
being my silver
That's
fox. Yeah.
some of the top comedians do that. It's called a callback.
Well, I think that's a good place to end. But remember that for us, we did, we chose a social media fast, but it doesn't have to be, I want to reiterate what you said, it doesn't have to be necessarily social media. What is pulling your attention? What has your heart?
Yeah.
And what can you set aside for a period of time so that you can awaken affection for God and for each other?
Well, and it's just a simple prayer from Psalm 139. Search me, O Lord, and know me. Know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me and lead me in an everlasting way. Praying those prayers, pulling open your heart, shine your light on me. I'll show me what's in here.
Yeah.
That's really where we need to be headed with each other and with our families and with our relationships.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Join us next week. We're going to talk about unforgiveness, how to know if you're holding on to it, and what to do about it. Together on purpose.
Together on purpose.